And this is the first time I've worked with Linda this way. So this is the first time I've done a demo with someone that we haven't already worked together. So I'm especially grateful for your trust and your willingness. And that makes communication all the more important, too. So we're going to, the order I have things in is kind of from the toes up, so I'm going to move down to the feet.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell that we could have you in sometime for this, too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, see, most of you are on this side. And the first thing I have on there is soleus, right?
Yes.
So we haven't done calf muscles, lower legs since musculoskeletal and fall, so that might be a little rusty. Does anybody, what do you all remember about soleus, where it goes from and to?
Calcaneus
Mhm.
to the femur. Yeah, epicondyles. Femur.
You're very close. There's a muscle very near it that does that, and it does start from calcaneus, but it doesn't go up. The one that goes all the way to the femur is gastroc, and we'll come to it in a minute.
Oh, yes.
Soleus is the deeper one that stops just before the knee. So we can stretch it since it goes from here to here. We can stretch it very easily like this. And see how there's a little jerkiness? And so, and if I keep doing this, you'll notice the jerkiness might start to smooth out. But noticing that, I might decide to do a little bit of circling too. But actually, it seems like most of the jerkiness is in this motion. So this, what we're going to do today might actually be really good. So what's across here on the front? I'm feeling a little tendon that is also tight. Anybody? Tibialis anterior. Good.
Just go with it. Very good.
Okay. So I can stretch it. This would just be passive stretch if I do this. And then what do I have on there next? Do I have anything besides passive stretch for the soleus?
Yes.
Pin and stretch. So that means I'm going to find see if I can find a few extra tight spots in it that I'll pin with my fingers and hold them while I change the muscle length with my other hand. So same strategy we used elsewhere, just looks different on each muscle. Okay. And I'm not feeling a lot of this. Well, here, this is tight too. There's a link to on one of your handouts, there's a link to a chiropractor website about pin and stretch. If you look at that one, if you had all day and you were working on an athlete trying to clear one muscle out, you could try to find you could try to cover the whole length and width of the muscle and pin everywhere and stretch while pinning each place. Or in real life sessions, you can at least try to find most of the main tight ones. Okay, do I have anything else there? Okay.
Could you work down the whole muscle just like a gliding effect?
That, yeah, and so that's what I've been calling stretch and strip. If I hold it in a stretch while I do that, and that's a little deeper than just effleurage. So if I really stuck to the principles of deep tissue, maybe I would effleurage it first to warm it up, just in a natural, relaxed position before I do anything deeper, and then. But I'm also doing that a little bit just by starting with gentler stretches in this position. And you'll see in a minute there's a reason why I might want to leave the skin dry right now for something else we're going to do in a bit. Okay, so now if we wanted to do toe flexors specifically, what do I have? Do I have pin and stretch? And you can do this face up too, but the toe flexors are all through here. So I'll find a few places that feel tight and sink into them, and then when they flex, they go this way, right? So if I want to stretch them, I want to go that way. This can be good with plantar fasciitis. And since I didn't warm it up first, I'm doing it a little gently at first. And then you could go deeper if that were your main, if that were a major goal, a major trouble area. Okay, what's next?
Gastroc,
Okay,
passive stretch.
okay. So here's where you get to use your kinesiology. The muscle you were thinking of when you said calcaneus to epicondyles of the femur was gastroc. If I do this, am I stretching gastroc?
No.
Okay, right, because gastroc is still flexed and still contracted over here. So if I want to stretch it prone, what I have to do, or at least this is how I do it, is bring it off the end. So this is straight. And now I'm going to stretch this, and I'm going to want my hands free in a minute. So I'm going to use my leg to do it, and I'm going to put the sheet between, because in case I were going to do this to several clients in a row during the day so they don't all put their feet on the same part of my clothing. So I'm going to use, usually for me it's my outside anterior leg, but it depends on their angle, and I forgot to check table height, but this is good. So now, so this would be a passive stretch for gastroc, right? It's stretched all along its length. And you remember that's the one that divides into two muscle bellies. And then what do I have on there next?
Says add MFR.
MFR, for myofascial release. So this is also very good for plantar fasciitis. And while I'm doing this, by the way, I want to kind of pay attention. Normally I want to be pressing into her medial and lateral foot about equally. Unless I'm specifically, if they have tight peroneus, then maybe I want to stretch that out and be more over here on the medial aspect of the foot. But otherwise I want to pay a little attention to where the foot is making contact. So now, the reason it's nice to have my hands free is now I can sink them in till I'm connected with the fascia. I don't have lotion or oil yet, so I'm not sliding. And my hands are leaning, tractioning toward her head, but not so fast that they slip. And meanwhile, my leg can be making sure that there's a stretch from the calcaneal tendon end. And so now all the fascia around and in the gastroc are getting a stretch. And so now I want to just stay here for a little bit because fascia takes a while to release. If I wait long enough, it doesn't feel super tight in the fascia here, so I don't know that we'll see much. But if they were tight and I waited long enough, we would see either my hands, without sliding, would begin to move closer to her head, and or I might find that I could go a little deeper into my lunge here, that the ankle would allow a little bit more dorsiflexion. So this is, like many of these techniques, this isn't something I do in every massage by any means, but there's a few people I do it on regularly because we're working on lengthening all of this.
So what you just said about the release, like it, because I get a little discouraged when I don't feel that
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
release, and what
Yeah.
you're saying is you can feel the release or gauge it if there's an increase in the flexibility or the lengthening if it lengthens.
Yeah, I mean, especially in this stretch, because part of the stretch is happening by dorsiflexing the foot. So if I can dorsiflex it a little further in a moment, that is just as much an indication that the fascia are lengthening.
Okay.
Because that's one end of the stretch. My hands are going one direction and the foot's going the opposite direction.
Okay.